Here we are continuing the section 5.5 stuff, and we're going to use the sum to product rule. That's the second one from the bottom. And if you notice that we have a cosine of an angle plus a cosine of an angle, so if you look at the formulas, there's four of them, and cosine u plus cosine v is one of them. So I'm going to plug into that one. And it says 2 cosine of u plus v divided by 2 times the cosine of u minus v divided by 2. And so if I do a little bit of simplifying here, the idea is that this makes it easier. If I take 255 plus 195, I get 400, I don't know, I'm going to have to use my calculator, 450 divided by 2, 450 divided by is 225. Hey, that's on our unit circle, that makes it easier. And 455 minus 195 gives me a 60. That's on my unit circle. That makes it easier. And so if I say the cosine at 225 gives me negative root 2 over 2. And the cosine at 60 gives me the half. Multiply all that out. I get the square root of 2 negative over 2. And let's go down to this equation. And we want to solve the equation. And we have a sign plus. So I'm going to use this formula over here. And I'm going to plug in, and I get 2 sine of x plus 5x divided by 2 cosine of x minus 5x over 2. And if I simplify it, I get 6x divided by 2 is 3x cosine of negative 4x divided by 2 gives me cosine of negative 2x. And we know that the cosine using the negative angle identities, we know that the cosine of a negative angle is the same as the cosine of a positive angle. So I can simplify that further to 2x. Alright, so if I'm solving this, and we know that these are equal to 0, we know that either the sine of 3x equals 0 or the cosine of 2x equals 0. And we know that the cosine, which is the y value, is equal to 0 at 0 and pi. And we know that's equal to 3x. So I get my x value of 0 and pi over 3. And I know that the period of sine is 2 pi, but we're dividing it by 3. So if I add 2 pi over 3, I will get some more zeros, which gives me 2 pi over 3 plus pi over 3 gives me pi. Adding 2 pi over 3 again, I get 4 pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3. So we get all of those answers. And the cosine of 2x equals 0. Well, we know that the cosine, which is the x value, is equal to 0 at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. But those aren't equal to x, those are equal to 2x. So my x is equal to pi over 4 and 3 pi over 4. And because this is only a 2x, that part is only, if we would add 2 pi divided by that 2, we we would have to add pi to get the next one. So we're going to go with 5 pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4. And so you get all of these answers as the solution. And, ooh, did I do something wrong here? It looks as if I did. I don't think I divided that by 2. It should have been the square root of 3 instead of a half. I kind of thought that looked like a different answer. All right, fix that in your notes. And look at all of those answers that we got. Holy cow. All right. So the product to sum. Now this is the bottom one. And so we have a sine, cosine, and again, there are 4 formulas down there. One of them has to be sine, cosine. So I'm going to plug into the formula. I'm going to say 1/2 of the sine of 8 theta plus theta plus sine of 8 theta minus theta. And so I end up with 1/2 of the sine of 9 theta plus the sine of 7 theta. And again, all we're doing is rewriting it as a sum. Now, why do we do this? Well, when you get to calculus, it's much easier to do a derivative and an integral on a single term instead of a product of 2 terms. So a lot of the stuff that we're learning, the sum to product, product to sum, those kind of things, we're doing it so it's easier in the future for you. So let's talk a little bit about half angle formulas. If I'm finding the sine of 15 degrees, I'm going to write that as the sine of 30 divided by 2. And we have a plus or minus in front, but we know that it's not because there's 2 answers. We have to pick. Sine of 15 is in the first quadrant, so we know that it's positive. We have to pick which one of those 2 it is. We don't get to just leave it as plus or minus. All right, so I'm going to plug in 1, we need that, 1 minus the cosine of 30 divided by 2, and so I get the square root of 1 minus the cosine at 30 degrees. Sine is or cosine is the x value, so 1 minus root 3 over 2. All of that divided by 2. I'm going to rewrite the top with a common denominator, so I'm going to say 3 minus, no, not a common denominator. Let's go with 2. There we go. 2 minus the square root of 3 all over 2 times, instead of dividing by 2, I'm going to times by the reciprocal. And so I get 2 minus square root of 3 all over 2. And that bottom 2 is not in the square root because I took the square root of 4. Again, take some time and try this one by yourself, this cosine of 195, before I do it. Man, that's glitchy. All right, so if I want to find that, I know that that's, I'm using the half angle formula, so I'm going to say 390, which is the cosine of 390 divided by 2. I don't know why I'm doing that. So let's go with it, I guess. So I have the cosine of 390 divided by 2 plus or minus the square root of 1 plus the cosine of 390 all over 2. And we know that 390 is in the first quadrant. It would be the same angle as 30 degrees. It's just a lap later. So we know it's a plus. And the cosine at 30 degrees is going to be the square root of 3 over 2 divided by 2. And if I recall correctly, it's going to be the same as the last answer, except it's going to be a plus sign instead of a minus sign. God, why does it do that? That is so weird. I don't know why it's doing that. I don't know. It's being really weird, people. I'm going to skip it because I'm glitching all over the place. Let's go to this one. If the sign is equal to 3/5 in quadrant 4, to find the exact value of the following. So let me draw it. We know the opposite and the hypotenuse in the 4th quadrant. I'm confused. What? Well, let's just live with it. So if I'm finding the sine of 2 theta, we know that's the same as 2 times the sine of x cosine x. And so I'm going to put my sine in there. They tell me it's 3/5. I have a hard time with that because it's in the 4th quadrant, and sine should be negative in the 4th quadrant. And the cosine would be, I'm going to guess that's going to be, should be positive, but they might want it negative. I'm not sure what the question's asking here. I'm going to go with it. I'm just going with it here. And it appears as if I get 24 over 25. If I do the same thing for the cosine of 2u, I can use, there's 3 different formulas. I'm going to use the one where they, since we know they've given us this value of, why is it being this way? Since they've given us the value of sine to be 3/5, I'm going to use the sine because I know that that's true. So I'm going to, the formula that says 1 minus 2 sine squared x. So 1 minus 2, we know the sine is 3/5 squared. And so I get 1 minus 2 times 9/25, which is 1 minus 18/25, which gives me 25 minus 18/25, which gives me 7/25. And the tangent of 2. And so let's get the tangent of 2x. Our formula there is 2 tangent u divided by 1 minus the tangent squared u. So that's at x, I guess. So if I want to go back up to my triangle and get my tangent, we're going to say the opposite over the adjacent is 3/4. So I'm going to say that 2 times 3/4 all over 1 minus 3/4 squared. Simplifying here, I get 3/2 over 1 minus 9/16, which is 3/2 divided by 7/16, which is the same as 3/2 times 16 over 7, which gives me 48/14. And for the fun of it, I'll make that 24/7. So just plugging values into the formula. All right. And I think I'm going to pause there because I don't think I can get that on a video.